Ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge news announcement for Uber and Lyft drivers. It's a big day. It's a big, massive decision today that the judge in San Francisco rules that California Uber and Lyft drivers should be employees. So from now on, they have to be classified as employees. Watch Uber and Lyft stock tomorrow. Just if you get a chance, go and take a look at their stock tomorrow. Now, we covered Our House Mondays this morning, where I create an open platform and allow all drivers, gig workers to share. But I could not pass this piece of news by, because I definitely have been one of those people who have been relentlessly fighting week for week, pushing towards this. This puts them in a very tight corner, right? This type of ruling is a massive setback for Uber, forcing them to start the negotiation process. They don't have many options, and options are running out. They're trying to get to the November ballot. They want you to vote yes on Prop.22. I will tell you why we need to vote no on Prop.22. I'm going to go into this because by putting it out there in social media, every single driver, every gig worker pushing for a no vote on Prop.22 puts even more pressure. QGS is in the house, Abstract Impressions, Karen's in the house. It puts endless pressure on them that they have to cut a better deal. So we got to mount the chips on this side. You've got Javier Becerra here fighting the fight for gig workers. You've got the California Labor Commissioner fighting the fight. You've got this judge ruling now. You've got the UK verdict. You've got the group pushing no on 22. We've got to mount the chips on this side so that we force them to the table and force them to cut a good deal. Today, ladies and gentlemen, was definitely a step in the right direction. A San Francisco Superior Court judge on Monday granted California's request for a preliminary injunction. It's just preliminary, but it's a step in the right direction to make the state's Uber and Lyft drivers into employees. The 34-page order was scathing about ride-hailing companies' prolonged and brazen refusal to comply with California law, namely AB 5, the new gig worker law that makes it harder for companies to claim that workers are independent contractors. Now, at the same time, did you notice that our friend, our dear friend, our special friend Dara, he was on the airwaves today. He did his stream with Harry, the rideshare guy. He sent out his personalized letter to all the drivers, and he published his opinion piece. I am the CEO of Uber. Gig workers deserve better. You got to question the time. He knows the SHIT is going down, so he tries to blast the airwaves and tries to reinsure the public, the investors, the riders, the drivers, say, hey, we will work with you. You have no choice now, buddy, but to work with drivers, right? I was hoping Harry would have chosen some tougher questions. I just feel like Harry let him get away with so much. Probably why this guy never has reached out to me and asked to be on my platform, because he knows how I truly feel about Dara K. He knows what I think about their treatment, and when I say their, executive treatment from both Uber and Lyft towards drivers. He knows that I am not a fan of his, as well as Logan Green and John Zimmer. Now, good for Harry. He got him on his show. That says a lot. He has a massive, massive platform, but he did not go for the jugular. He kept it very, very safe. The questions were very safe. Maybe he only agreed to go onto his show because he was only going to ask safe questions. Who knows? But Payman Ali's got it right. It's a big day, the 2.5-year interview, right? So he gets an interview for the first time, which is great. I think that's fantastic. But I was missing the tough questions. And I love Harry. I love all the work he's done. He's one of my biggest mentors. But he had that golden opportunity. He had that golden opportunity to corner Darren. He didn't do it. Right? So back to the ruling. The ruling is the biggest defeat Uber and Lyft have suffered in their quest to keep drivers as freelancers today. Dennis Torres, I was down in Long Beach today. How are you? Mimi says Uber stock is down after hours trading. Not surprised. Watch Uber and Lyft tomorrow. Should go down. This isn't good news for Uber and Lyft. And truly, Gareth Kay was working the airwaves today, working the largest blog podcasting platform with Harry, working the New York Times, publishing an opinion piece, and then sending out these emails to drivers. You may have seen these emails. They looked something like this here, right? Did you get something like this? Where he writes a personal message to each driver, pushing them to his opinion piece, signing it. This is desperation, my friends, and it's really, really good that all of our collective efforts, all the tweets, all the newspaper articles, all the strikes, all the protests have led up to this point. In my eyes, this preliminary injunction is a huge victory for drivers because it puts more pressure, it mounts more pressure on them to cut a better deal, right? And suddenly, Derek Kay today is adopting our language, the language we've been using, namely, it's got to be like a hybrid. It's got to be an in-between, right? Remember what I always said like this? It's got to be a hybrid. He's now using our language, like trying to connect with us, trying to be authentic for the very first time. But I think drivers have learned their lessons over and over and over again that he cannot be trusted. Right? It is a huge attempt to try and win us onto their side because he knows he has a massive problem with California. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed. Only Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey started initiating the same type of process as California with the AB5. I'm questioning where all those other states are, right? They didn't go and bat. They didn't go and defend or fight for the drivers or for the gig workers. Haven't seen Florida. Haven't seen DeSantis show up. Haven't seen Texas showing up. You guys got to do a better job to put relentless pressure on your congressmen, on your senators, on your politicians to protect drivers' right and get better pay and get better conditions. We did a damn good job here in California. They are so afraid that they go and spend $110 million fighting our efforts. Judge Ethan Schulman, good for you, buddy. Thank you, Judge. Stayed his injunction for 10 days. The companies will appeal it and seek a longer stay before the 10 days are up. An appeals court likely would hear their emergency motion quickly. Uber said it expects to be granted a longer-term delay and does not anticipate any near-term changes to its business. No matter what, it could not hire tens of thousands of drivers in a matter of days, it said. Drivers do not want to be employees, full stop, Lyft said. We'll immediately appeal this ruling and continue to fight for the independents. Now, he is right in saying that the majority of the drivers don't want to be employees, but he is wrong in stating that we are independent contractors, because we are not independent contractors under the law. The true definition of independent contractor looks a little bit different. That is when people in Florida and Texas and Colorado and everyone can decide if they want to drive to that destination. They can pick and choose their trips. They can choose which company they want to drive for, when they want to drive for, and set their rates. So on the one hand, he is right saying that we don't necessarily want to be employees, right? But we are also not independent contractors. And the only solution to this is if they come up with a new law, better pay, better conditions, better rights, better health benefits, right? And that could be a whole new gig hybrid law. That is where I see this verdict going. But the good thing is, it has mounted so much additional pressure on Uber and Lyft to cut a better gig hybrid deal and not trying to get away with their, hey, you are an independent contractor, which we are not, folks, right? So Dennis says, I'm disappointed about the interview. Harry really let us down. He even looked scared. I don't think Harry looked scared. Payment Ali says, I disagree, Dennis. I thought Harry did a great job. I disagree with you, Payment. I think Harry was too weak on. It was a very, very, very easy conversation for Dara. Dara definitely got his sound bites across. He should have cornered him on tougher questions. So I completely disagree that that was a great interview. Right? I don't know if Uber dictated the questions. I don't know what Harry agreed to. Right? I have all the respect in the world for Harry. I really do. I would never change my opinion. But I feel like, and I would tell Harry this as a friend, personally to his face, I would feel like you missed the opportunity to ask 3 or 4 tough questions, right? And the questions were soft. And Dara made him nervous once or twice, saying, oh, obviously you're trying to appeal to your base. You're trying to. Harry didn't even do much for the base because he didn't ask the tough questions. The question should have been way, way tougher. Why is it that you are spending $110 million fighting gig workers, right? Why is it that you suddenly today write an opinion piece, come on my show, on Harry's show, and write a personalized letter after Attorney General sued you, Labour Commissioner sued you, you're in the UK court. Why all these legal hassles, Mr. Dara Khosrowshahi? Please explain that. Why do you have to get yourself into all of these legal entanglements? Why don't you meet with the drivers? Why don't you meet with the gig workers and work out a deal that is a win-win-win situation? Win state, win company, win drivers, right? So, okay. Payman Ali now says he was a little easy, but it is a public interview, so I'm sure it was somewhat staged. I agree. It looked too staged to me. And my feeling is, hey, send us over the questions. Once we have the questions, we'll agree if we come onto the show. Right in the middle of the discussion, I could see Harry's eye wander down. I wrote a message. I was in the stream, and I wrote a tough question. A tough question. And I saw Harry sort of react to the question. I was hoping Harry would run with my question. I was hoping Harry would grab my question. It was a tough one for CEO Dara Khosrowshahi, but he didn't. So my guess is they played it extremely safe, pre-orchestrated. Who knows? Garcia Bui in the house. Anyway, so drivers do not want to be employees. Lyft said the vast majority of drivers want to work independently, which is true. We want to work independently, but under the definition, the true definition of independent, they have muddied the waters. They have completely taken independent contractorship out of proportion, out of context, and have convoluted it, have completely shredded the true meaning of it, right? Pretending that we are independent contractors. We are not independent contractors, folks. And I don't think we want to be employees. What I think we need to be is somewhere in the middle where the state, the company, and the drivers decide together that we have some form of representation at the table and say, hang on, no. Dear state, dear company, listen to what we want out of this. They are hoping to get a yes on Proposition 22 so that they can push their proposal. They have spent $110 million getting those autographs. That's in the company's interest. That's not in your interest. So that is not, my friends, I'm going to say this 10 times, that is not the best deal they have put on the table. That is not the best deal they have put on the table. We need to be at the table, and again, that is not the best deal they have put on the table. That's why we need to mount the pressure. The only way you win in the negotiating game is by applying relentless pressure. And the way you get to do that is you go onto social media, you push for a no on Prop 22, you saturate Twitter, you saturate Facebook, you saturate YouTube, no on 22, and you tell your story. Why? Right? Because time and time again over 10 years, Uber and Lyft have lied, have really never delivered. If they've put something out there, they've taken it back. They have never, ever treated you and I as a true independent contractor. The closest we have ever got to true independent contractorship is here in California, where for a while you could nominate your rates, you could choose your destination, and you could decline. But even as you started to decline, they started punishing you, and they started deactivating you. So we have never, ever been true independent contractors. People misunderstand the meaning of true independent contractorship. Uber and Lyft sell you to the public, hey, you are independent contractors. We are treating you like independent contractors. No, you're not. Not under the true definition. Payman says they had ample opportunity to do the right thing. Their greed knows no boundaries. That is spot on. They had so much time. To be decent, to be fair, not only towards the drivers, also to the state. No, instead, they would go and throw, listen to this, Grub Dunn and Crutcher, whatever that law firm, Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher here in LA, they made $2 billion in legal fees last year. $2 billion. You know where they got the most of the money from? From Uber and Lyft. They represented them in 50 cases. That should tell everyone. Don't be fooled here, folks. That should tell everyone where Uber's and Lyft's priorities are. To fund attorneys, to fight us. So he comes out today, all these smoke and mirrors, getting on Harry's show, right? Getting into the New York Times with his opinion, writing you this personal love letter, right? Here. Dear Jennifer, dear Mark, this is what I want to tell you. We've been treating you unfairly. My friend, you had the opportunity to work with us. You had the opportunity to set the record straight. You never did it. Now you're desperate. The actions of Dara Khosrowshahi show me today that their desperation levels are at an all-time high. They are desperate, right? By the way, spoke to the owner of this $3 million car today, Mercedes Gullwing. This guy had a story. He started a cleaning service, cleaning cars 30 years ago, and he worked his way up the ladder. He has a whole portfolio. He's got 2 planes, hangar. Said I could meet with him at the hangar, do a YouTube interview. He was a fascinating guy. He lives down in Palos Verdes. Juan Empresario OmniLife. Today is a great day. Drivers are winning. Thank you, Juan. Thank you so much for your donation. I appreciate it. Thank you, Juan. I appreciate it. So keep the pressure up. Mount more pressure. I'm just asking drivers and gig workers to mount more pressure in other states, right? Mount the pressure, folks. Call the people out on Twitter. Call them out on Facebook. Call out Ted Cruz. Call out DeSantis. What's up, right? They need those 4 million votes from the drivers. They need them. So let them fight for us, right? The vast majority of drivers want to work independently. Lyft says, and we've already made significant changes to our own app to ensure that remains the case under California law, right? You've made some changes in California. You have disrespected, you have disregarded too many other drivers around the state. The only people you are cozying up to slightly are the California drivers. Why? Because you got hammered in California and you're trying to save face. But for all my brothers and sisters in all those other states, overseas, in Sydney, in Cape Town, in Tokyo, in Germany, wherever you are, you've just been completely disrespectful. You're not listening to the drivers. So Rick Nelson says, talk to your passengers about 22, right? I don't think that's a bad thing. Talking about Proposition 22. We can jump into 22 a little bit, get the facts. What is Proposition 22? The Uber and Lyft ballot measure. Uber and Lyft, Instacart, and DoorDash wrote Proposition 22 to create a special exemption for themselves. Listen to this, a special exemption for themselves from California law that requires app-based companies to provide basic protections to their workers. Now they are spending more than $100 million in California on Proposition 22 to boost their profits by denying their drivers right to a minimum wage, paid sick leave, and safety protections. The background, Uber and Lyft, Instacart, and DoorDash paid to put Proposition 22 on the ballot. They hired lawyers to write a misleading initiative and paid political operatives millions to collect the voter signatures they needed. Millions. Proposition 22 is a carve-out in law that allows Uber and app companies to deny their drivers rights and protections like paid sick leave, workers' compensation, or unemployment benefits. Kimberly Susan Fletcher, I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. By the way, this verbiage, I can put the link after this live feed and you can grab some of the verbiage. We got to educate the public. We got to educate the people, the citizens, what these companies are up to, right? And we got to mount the pressure, right? And push for a no vote on 22. I see a Facebook page with vote yes on 22. Today, it said that it had 3,700 members. That's not much. That's not much at all, right? There's over 300 million people in the United States. There's over 30 million people in California, and all they could round up is a meager 3,700 members. We can do way better than that. So take the verbiage from that link, use it in Twitter, use it in your Facebook pages, make videos. If you want to start a channel, now's the best time to start a channel. Amit Kotby says, did you try to do the interview? Did you try to do the interview with him? No, I don't want to meet with the guy. I really don't. I mean, I have been, it's like you're preaching to the choir with Dara, right? They have their way. It's their way or the highway. right? To bring him onto my show, he would have never come onto my show because he knows I'm extremely direct and I go for the jugular. He's not my biggest fan. And I tell you why, because I'm a voice for drivers. And Harry is sort of like middle ground, right? Harry is playing it safe. Harry wants to get sponsors. Harry has a big blog cast. He wants to keep his money going. So Uber will use him time and time again, right? But I find it too tailored. It is not authentic enough for me, this interview. And I'm talking about this interview. And when I say it's not authentic, what I mean is that the tough questions were left out, right? But my questions would be different. My questions would be very, very direct. They're very black and white. There's no gray zone when I ask Derek questions, right? One of my questions to him would be, for example, to free up millions and millions and millions of marketing dollars, you decided somewhere in 2019 to change your terms of service and the law to really, really screw over a lot of drivers, not only on their pay, right, but also on the people that really helped you build the company. How are you going to make that wrong right? That's a question. You know, I can't really answer that because that's a little bit of a legal question. Trust me, he'll worm himself out of it. You need a true CEO, sees a question and will be able to run with that question. Tough question or not tough question. Today, Harry let him off the hook, right? Roberta, 45, had these companies simply taken a 20 to 25 cut and provide protections against false reports, along with allowing drivers truthful access of the app, as well as, you know, assistance, hazard pay, essential pay during the pandemic, as well as truly supplying PPE, yes, they would have been on the right track, Roberto. I agree with you. Rihanna Wilson's in the house. IQ Boy is in the house. Rihanna Wilson says, I really don't understand why Uber makes it seem like they can't afford to pay the drivers more, but they can buy Postmates. Then they put millions into this. And my question to Darrow would be, why are you spending so much money in court on hiring attorneys, on fighting? Why don't you come up with a resolution which will really save you hundreds of millions of legal dollars in the long run? Why don't you reinvest those savings that you are pushing towards legal law firms? You're paying law firms all over the world to battle and battle. Why don't you rather reinvest that and come up with something that creates a healthy, not a toxic work environment, right? I don't want to be the CEO of Uber and I have to spend $2.5 million a year for security, because he is one of the largest security entourages after Mark Zuckerberg and after Bill Gates and after Jeff Bezos. Dara Kay spends so much on security. Ask yourself why. Because he's extremely hated, right? So why not sit down in a coffee shop and have the conversations with Joe? You need a people's person, right? Because there's 4 million of these people. There's a handful of these executives, right? You can't just rule, top to bottom and never allow these people at the bottom to have a voice. Shut up and accept the monies we pay you. Be grateful and run your car into the ground. That builds up a lot of anger. And man, do I read the emails and the text messages. I understand the frustrations and the anger. I myself have completely turned against Uber and Lyft, fighting for these type of causes, right? That is what my channel has morphed into. Now, that may cost me advertisers, that may cost me some subscribers, that is where my heart is, right? I'm not going to do, I'm sorry to say this, Rideshare Hub, Mr. Rideshare Hub, the young guy, I'm not going to give you the fluff and mirrors. I look at your videos You have 75% dislikes and 25% likes on your video because you're still selling the fluff, right? And I tell you, I was one of those people that was selling the company, but I was selling the company in the good times when you could still actually make money. When we were, like Roberto said, getting 25%, and the 25, 75% plus the surges made sense. Sense as in CENTS and SENSE. Today, it does not make sense anymore, right? And if it doesn't make sense anymore, I cannot sell the product. I cannot lure people in, right? Jimmy Denson's in the house. How are you? S. Donald Mayer, heard of 10,500 plus rides given driver in Minneapolis deactivated with false claim. Told they don't need you video. Very sad. Right, that's how they would treat somebody who's done 10,500 trips for the company. It's disposable. That is the wrong type of CEO thinking, right? If you look at how many drivers collectively, Dustin, Harry, Entrepreneur, myself, rideshare professor, Geo, Dave the Uber slave, have brought to the company, you would think that they'd want to work with us and empower us and find other great solutions. No, that's not how they are built. That's not how they think. Payment, Ali says, has got to run. Be safe, my brother. Thank you for your contributions. I appreciate everything you say and do in the channel, my friend. Thank you, Payment. I truly mean it. Abstract Echo Impression says, hi, Jimmy. I applied for PUA only to find out after 5 months that I needed to be on regular unemployment. I'm finally getting my back pay. Yes. Amen. I am happy for you. Rihanna Wilson says, I wasn't a fan of Travis either, but he knew something big was coming and got out before things got too crazy. And Rihanna, you're on the money there. I mean, Travis's timing was almost perfect, right? He left at a decent, I mean, not a great stock price. He made several $1 billion, and you know what? He didn't want anything. He probably knew they had so many skeletons in the closet, and he just did not want to face more and more and more and more legal issues. So Travis took the parachute, cashed out, and left. Sam says, it's sad to say, thanks to Corona, without it, the state wouldn't even care about the drivers, but because they got hit with unemployment claims, they had to pay. They're going after Uber and Lyft. That is so, so true. If it wasn't for the coronavirus, right, if it wasn't for the hardships during the coronavirus, this wouldn't have got the attention, as Sam correctly says. It's the coronavirus that underlined, underscored, and shone the light on these cockroaches and exposed them. And change then followed. Now, a few more things on Prop.22, right? Reason why I'm saying vote no on 22 is not to push drivers towards employer status, but to mount the pressure and the chips against. The more people, right, that we can convince to vote no on 22, the more pressure Uber and Lyft are under, and they find out that their $110 million effort is not working, so they have to cut a deal. This is all about cutting a deal in creating what I call a win-win-win situation. Who are the three winners? Company, state, gig workers, right? Because God forbid they get a yes on 22. It's straight back to the same old, right? Then they're going to really feel powerful. Proposition 22 makes us all less safe by eliminating safety protections for riders and drivers and any liability these wealthy companies have to consumers. Prop 22 exempts these multi-billion-dollar gig corporations from contributing to safety net programs we all need, like Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment insurance, and also assistance during the pandemic. Prop 22 is a carve-out in law that allows Uber and app companies to deny their drivers rights and protections like paid sick leave, workers' compensation, or unemployment benefits. Prop.22 only applies to Uber and the app companies. It is designed to maximize their profits at the expense of taxpayers and their drivers. The measure creates a competitive advantage for giant corporations that hurts workers and small family-owned businesses. Current state law requires Uber and the app companies to provide their drivers with rights and protections just like every other California business. The Attorney General recently sued them for breaking this law. You can help stop this power grab that hurts its workers and taxpayers. Vote no on 22. And I'm going to put this article out there because it gives you a lot of ammunition, it gives you a lot of material that you need to take to social media, right? We got to assist the Attorney General. We got to assist the states, right? The few states that had the courage and the power to take on these companies, right? Only a handful of states. I wish by now it would have been at least 20, 30 states. But hey, let's rather not get involved. Let's rather not. No, we don't want to get involved in that, right? They have other priorities, politicians. They're making money elsewhere. This is a headache to them. I'm glad that Attorney General Javier Becerra took on this headache. I'm glad that the California Labor Commissioner took this on because they could clearly see we being misclassified and they could clearly see how we were treated during the pandemic, right? So back to the article, California Attorney General Javier Becerra and 3 city attorneys had sought to force the ride-hailing companies to immediately reclassify their drivers under AB5. Becerra and the city attorneys of San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego sued Uber and Lyft in May, saying they were depriving drivers of the protections and benefits of employment. So where were the city attorneys? Where were the attorney generals of Salt Lake City, of Denver, Colorado, of Tampa, Florida, of Parsippany, New Jersey, of Austin, Texas, of Albuquerque, New Mexico? Where were all these city attorneys? Right? Make the case known to your city attorneys. You've got to do the research, find out who's your attorney general, include him in Twitter's. Hey, why are you not doing anything about this? Hey, city attorneys, call them out by name on Facebook. Why are you not joining the fight and protecting the gig workers? Why is it that California have to do all the heavy lifting, right? Good question. Schulman, which was the judge, said there was an overwhelming likelihood that Becerra and the city attorneys would prevail on their claim that Lyft and Uber are misclassifying drivers. Defendants' contrary arguments lack merit, he wrote, calling out glaring inconsistencies such as the companies saying that AB5 does not apply to them, even as Uber filed a suit saying that AB5 had targeted it. Our state and workers shouldn't have to foot the bill when big businesses try to skip out on their responsibilities, Becerra said in a statement. We're going to keep working to make sure Uber and Lyft play by the rules. San Francisco City Attorney Dennis Herrera addressed Uber and Lyft's contention that employment would require rigid scheduling. There is no rule that prevents these drivers from continuing to have all of the flexibility they currently enjoy, he said in a statement. Being properly classified as an employee doesn't change that. AB5 established an ABC test that says workers are employees unless A, they are free from hiring entities' control, B, perform work outside of the hiring entity's usual business, and C, have an independent business doing that kind of work. It is simple. Defendants' drivers do not perform work that is outside the usual course of their business. Defendants' insistence that their businesses are multi-sided platforms rather than transportation companies flies in the face of economic reality and common sense. Schulman acknowledged that complying with the injunction will not be inexpensive or easy, There's no question that Uber and Lyft will have to change the nature of their business practices in significant ways, he wrote. Along with other gig companies, Uber and Lyft are pursuing a $110 million November ballot measure, Proposition 22. And right, I've given you guys and will continue to give you enough ammunition for Prop 22. No on Prop 22. Kimberly says Ventura County as well, question mark. What are you asking about Ventura County, Kimberly? No on Prop 22. Yeah, no on Prop 22. We got to push that because that just puts more pressure on them, right? And if they see they have the weaker hand, if they see that the tide is turning on them and they don't have the upper hand, at that point they will cut a deal. Oh, that's great. My son says we saw a 4-foot leopard shark today, a bit off the coast from where we were surfing. Charming. I told these guys not to surf when the sun goes down, but kids. Sacramento politicians and special interests keep pushing these disastrous laws and lawsuits that would take away the ability of app-based drivers to choose when and how they work, even though by a 4-to-1 margin drivers want and need to work independently. Jan Kruger, a retiree who drives with Lyft in Sacramento, said in statement for Yes on 22. Now, what Jan Kruger does not know is she believes she's an independent contractor. That's what she believes. She believes in the story that was sold to her that she's a true independent contractor. You are not, Jan. True independent contractors have way more rights, have way more say than you currently have. We'll take our case to the voters to protect the ability of app-based drivers to work as independent contractors while providing historic new benefits like an earnings guarantee. Well, that's just regurgitating and she's a mouthpiece for Dara. The No on 22 campaign, which is backed by organized labor, had a rejoinder from Lyft and driver Iran Alva. For years, workers have been organizing and speaking out against our mistreatment by billion-dollar gig companies who have refused to obey the law. The mistreatment we face is so severe that justice can no longer wait. Today, the court sided with workers and not corporations. Thousands of misclassified gig workers will receive the wages, benefits, protections, and employee status they are legally owed. It is abundantly clear that Uber and Lyft now must comply with the law. Uber and Lyft want Becerra's lawsuit postponed until after voters weigh in on Prop 22, as well as until a federal court rules on a separate Uber lawsuit challenging AB5's constitutionality. Schulman flatly rejected that request. Defendants are not entitled to an indefinite postponement. Thank you very much, because they're trying to play the long game. That's what Gibson done. I've been speaking about this. Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher. They play the long game. No, it's time to act, and the time is now. And a great, great victory for drivers today. Uber had sought to sever its case from that of Lyft, saying that recent changes it made, such as letting drivers set fares as multiples of its base fare, strengthened its case that AB5 does not apply to. Schulman rejected that also. The people's claims against defendants are nearly identical, and consideration of judicial economy and efficiency support their resolution in a single action. I agree with it. Right? They can't suddenly now say, well, you know what, we're branching off from Lyft, we're going our own way. We have our own argument. No, you package this up together, you sued together, and now you can't split. The judge ruled the right way, I got to say. Uber and Lyft maintain the independent contractor model for drivers is allowed under 85, and that their business and drivers themselves depend on that flexibility. So I think it was a bad day for Dara, a bad day for Tony West, the main chief legal, a bad day for Randall Heimovicki, a bad day for Katie Weitzman, a bad day for Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher. They got slapped in the face. When over 3 million Californians are without a job, our elected leaders should be focused on creating work, not trying to shut down an entire industry during an economic depression, Uber said. Really. California is also pursuing other ways to enforce AB 5. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we got that out. I will also include the link on 22. And I told you what I thought about this interview. I feel like you should have been a little bit stronger here. Let's just see here. Louis, how are you, buddy? Smooth. Good question. I agree, Jay would have gone more after the jugular. Yeah, Dustin should interview there. I agree, Rick. Mark Rowden, hammer time. Correct, John Durham. Tommy, can you hear me? I'll put the link in there, Tommy. The vast majority goes to drivers. Let's say that you and I sit down. That was a good one. % of rates going up to cover that. No mind to buy resident. Yeah. Yep. Smoke. email. I've never spoken to them directly.
Well, I think that first of all, so they are our asset services, incredibly valuable platform. Quality as well. So I
Dr. Run, how are you, buddy? DRR in the house. I welcome you.
broadcast that first of all, that's their incredibly platform. And is while they are working 30 hours per week, their benefits exactly when they want or not want, having to get to the
Pay per channel, pay per view.
from the benefit is that the benefit plan will be higher than the benefit for a part-time driver. So it is benefit the most. And the fact is that they are, but they are very expensive platform, but design this so that they can putting in around. So
I agree, DRR.
for example, our Prop.22 and the issue with the standard is that standard, as you know, 30 state by state, and even standard economic in some places and very, very other places. In other words, certain places not make any sense. So it's for transparency and
Transparency.
forum. The driver.com standard basically are very productive for having very
Thank you, boy.
the profession that allows you put smart about how you work where you work very, very much. And that is very attractive to the drivers I've spoken to. So they were quite on benefits package. And they said, I'm gonna let me earn what I want to earn. I'm my own boss. Responsibility. That's about for the drivers.
Noah Jones correctly said, if I decline 2 rides in a row on the Uber app, the app signs me out. That's not being my own boss. Thank you for saying that. How does he like to be out there in the public place? He's doing this now. It's an orchestrated effort. Opinion in the New York Times, customized email that went out today. and at the same day, all on the same day, the discussion with Harry. So this is very telling. Desperation has set in. This is desperate people do desperate things. Remember that. Desperate people do desperate things. This was a desperate attempt to try and sort of quieten the bad legal news they've been receiving left, right, and center. Good points, Noah. Thank you for your contribution. Great points, Noah. I agree, Doc Redrun. Use the hammer. Mark, use the hammer. I'll try, Brennan. Can't guarantee it. Gustavo. Yeah, I know that's. I tend to go a little bit full of jugular. That's true. You always bring it to compensation because you represent the drivers. Well, we have to. This is Harry. You always bring it to compensation. Good night, Roberto. Appreciate you, buddy. Much love. California, not Texas. Correct. Okay. Really? He's really led and getting supplies out to folks. That's true, Brandon. Healthy? Good question. John, good night, buddy. I hear you. Painful. Thank you, buddy. Hola, amigo. How are you, buddy? Mario Garcia in the house. Hola, ¿cómo está? Sometimes. Don't wait 2.5 years. You bet. Take care. Well, you know what? Good for Harry. No other YouTuber can claim that they've got the scoop to speak with one of the CEOs. I did speak to the CEO of Grubhub before, but I would like to have coffee or lunch with Dara and just be able to ask some tough questions. Period. Right. Period. Very simple. Dark Road Run has not been light on Dara either. So I respect his channel. Dark Road Run is not smoke and mirrors or fluffy like the fluffy channel. He says it as it is. Right, and those are the people that I have the greatest respect for, and they have the ability to say it as it is. Some of the questions were good, but it was a lot like a song and a dance. It was like it seemed a little orchestrated. But I appreciate it. I mean, Harry opened up the conversation for a good 29 minutes of information, and all I can say, I'm going to have to duplicate Dark Road Run's words here. I see John Bowers in the house. How are you, buddy? It's Moose is in the house. How are you? But I really agree with what Dark Road Run says, and I've said it before. If you go out and write an opinion piece in the New York Times, I am the CEO of Uber, and gig workers deserve better. I think that was the headline. You did that today. You came on this show today, one of the biggest podcasters in the rideshare industry, in the gig industry, Harry. You wrote your personal letter to every driver. You did this all on the same day, on Monday, when this news was coming out, because you anticipated it would be bad news today, right? You knew that a lot of shit was going down on Monday in the UK, in California, and then he puts this whole PR spin, multiple efforts all packed into one day. That, to me, ladies and gentlemen, smells of desperation. Desperate people do desperate things, right? Trying to buy time, trying to play the long game, trying to get a yes on Prop.22 when we have to be pushing for a no on 22. Our job, and I'm not going to draw this conversation out much longer, our job is to keep the pressure on. If every single person, whether it's Dark Road Run, whether it's Sherelle, whether it's Brandon, whether it's John Bauer, whether it's Moose, whether it's Rick Nelson, whether it's Cotton Patch, whether it's Dennis, every now and again, find the time to tweet, find the time to do a Facebook post. If you get an article like today, right? Get an article like this today, you got to circulate it. Got to circulate it, right? Got to circulate it. So more and more public members, more and more riders get to understand where the drivers are coming from and that we are getting small victories. We are getting the victories. And on the other hand, they're spending all the monies to try and overturn our victories or to try and keep us in the court system, which they call, the legal definition is the long game, to try to play the long game, right? We've got to highlight that. And beyond California, beyond Massachusetts, beyond New York, beyond New Jersey, I urge drivers of other cities and other states to rise up, to do your bit in social media, to circulate the stories, to call out people, your attorney general, your city attorneys, call them out by name. They have Twitter handles, they have Facebook pages, call them out. Like, why are you sitting on the sidelines? Why are you silent? Why are you not doing anything about this? Don't you want our vote? We are 4 million people strong, 5 million. So, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot emphasize this enough. Social media is where the power is, right? And even if it's a 15 round or a 12 round social media, as long as you pound and pound and pound and wear the fighter down, body shots, whatever you have to do, eventually, like today, it goes in our favor, right? But we have been tirelessly working and chipping away at this. I call it death by 1,000 cuts, right? And good for Harry today to at least get a little bit of pressure and they get a couple of words in from the driver, but we can do so much more. Uberman Tampa's in the house. Good to see you, buddy. How are you? I thought this was ruled in 2019. No, it's not. In 2019, on the last day of 2019, December the 31st, Uber and Lyft filed a lawsuit against California to stop AB5. And then multiple lawsuits followed in 2020. This is more like a ruling. It's going to go to appeals court now, but it's a ruling. It's a preliminary injunction. It's a big victory here today in San Francisco. And yes, it will go to appeals court. And the judges don't want to waste more time. They don't want to give Uber and Lyft the time that they want, which is called the long game. The long game is they really, really are trying to get to the finishing line on the November ballot. And then they can turn around and say, California, you see, this is what the people wanted. Why? Because we spend $110 million, for our interests on Prop.22. So I urge every driver, I urge every rider, I urge every public member, citizen to vote no on Prop.22 and understand the fact sheet, which I'm going to share in the video below. Use those sound bites in social media. Circulate these links in social media, right? So maybe some people don't know, but on, I'm going to say this again, on got 290 comments on this one here. Wedding bells. Wedding bells, November the 29th. Doing something that's very important for me, for her, for our family. We're a family of 7 now during the pandemic. And I'm super, super, super excited about that. Thank you, Uberman Tampa. Dark Road Run, you remember that? Last summer's 85 protest in Sacramento, paid for by Uber. We were there. We were there. Thank you, Dark Road Run. We were there. Remember, they were paying for the pizzas. They were paying $100. They were paying $100 gift certificates to the people to show up at the rally. This is what they were doing. They hired a company to reach out to drivers, paying them $100 card, a debit card, or whatever you call it, like a Visa card, for showing up at the rally, plus a free hat, plus a free T-shirt, plus a pizza. And then these people went, blah, 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 blah. I mean, how do you argue with someone if you're a paid show? You're on the payroll. Thank you, Euro Driver Rides. I appreciate you. No, August, now, 29th. 29th. Cool stuff, cool beans. I thank you. It's been I did almost a 2-hour feed this morning, another 1.5 hours now. That's 3.5 hours on this topic, but it had to be done because it was a huge day. It was weird that Dara was on New York Times, on Harry, and all of this information all crammed into one Monday, on Our House Mondays. Did I get down on one knee? I did. On Christmas Day. No. August the 29th. August the 29th. Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate you. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone. I wish you a good night. I want to get some rest. I hope you get some rest. And let's see what happens on this topic, which I also spoke about today. I'm really curious to see how this will play out. I'm really, really curious to find out, is he going to give up on the fact that he wants the states to chip in $100, and for every $100 they chip in, he's going to release $300? I want to see what happens with this PUA. I'm fine with the 400. I didn't expect it to be higher, but I did not understand or know that he built in all of those conditions, right? And those conditions were that the states had to chip in $100. States don't have money. They can barely keep themselves afloat during the pandemic. Also, you get 1 month free. Load up, there it is. 1 month free membership from me at Cova. Check it out. Cova. Getting tired. AI/refer/rideshare. Check it out. Go and check out what the company Cova, what type of membership package they have when they jump in. It's Moose says, I hope California Supreme Court will pass on this and that it goes directly to the United States Supreme Court to speed things up. US Supreme Court has already ruled that UPS and FedEx drivers are employees. Well said. Rick Nelson says, Uberman, Tampa, Disneyland, Anaheim, or Florida. I think he's talking about Florida. All right, everyone. You rock. I appreciate you. Happy Monday. Have a great, great, healthy, safe, and successful week. Good night. Thank you. Amen. I appreciate you. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Tommy Cash. Thank you, QGS, for sticking in. I appreciate you guys. You rock. Let's see, what do we have there? Good night, everyone.